odds of this boy achieving his dream in fashion? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 110. I am Tommy Hilfiger. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters. We're joined today by Lisa Lithicum and Sarah Taggett, who have joined us to share the story of the loss of their children by suicide. Lisa, you've talked about how your faith has helped you cope with this situation. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, you know, it was very interesting. The months before Jacob completed suicide, I'd been very depressed, and I didn't understand why. My work was going very well. I should have really been very happy at the time, and I ended up going to a Women of Faith event, and Sheila Walsh was doing a speech, and she had made a comment, "Be still and know I am God." And it was interesting. At the time, I thought this message was for someone else, but on October 25th, when I got to the hospital, it resounded in my head, "Be still and know I am God, and to be exalted above all others." And the whole experience for me, and I've always been an extremely strong faith-based person, but God was with me. I mean, when I decided it was time to turn the machine off, I felt God's hand on me. I knew it was, I feel like He gave Jacob back so I could let go. It was my time to let go, and for the realization that this was not the path I would choose. This is not the path I had imagined, but reality was that I had to let him go. And what I have found is without my faith, I wouldn't be here today. I'm not sure how people cope without God. I've never been angry at God for what happened. I truly believe Jacob made a choice, a decision. The finality part of the brain doesn't develop until 25. I know my son and I had such a tight relationship. Had he thought about what he was doing, he wouldn't have wanted me to find him.
So your faith for you has really been a comfort and a support.
It has been a comfort and a support.
So Sarah, can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you've done to try to cope with this situation?
Sure. When we first went out to Michigan State to get our daughter and had a memorial service, I came up with the idea to have a scholarship in her name. She was a brilliant student, and she was dyslexic and ADD. She couldn't read until she was in 4th grade, so she had accomplished a lot. I didn't want the world to forget that. And then when we came home, and my husband and I, once we went back to work, we were just so numb. Go to work, come home, sit on the couch. And I didn't realize at the time, but I had become suicidal. I have these migraine headaches. I went to the doctor, yet another neurologist, and the doctor prescribed depression medicine, said the side effect was headaches. And it didn't clear up the headaches, but it was like after 2 days, maybe 3 days, it was like somebody took this blanket off of me. And now I could see light again. And I realized that that's probably how my daughter felt. I was starting to think, you know, how can I join her? Ways to do it so that I wouldn't be, you know, there was no coming back. And I had justified in my mind that she needed me more than the people on earth did. And that, you know, they could get along without me. I had forgotten all about how devastating, and as my son says, how September 20th, 2008 had destroyed our family. I had forgotten it. Been in my own mind, probably just like my daughter. So then it was just kind of a matter of you know, moving forward, doing different things. My husband's part of this golf group, Howard County Aging Hackers Association. They have a once-a-year end of golf tournament. And instead of having their little prizes, they donated money to us to do with what we will. We donated to scholarship. And then we started kind of I started researching about depression and bipolar and suicide, because how could this outgoing, bright, beautiful young woman, much like Lisa's son, do this? Were the warning signs? There had to be warning signs. And so I read, I went to support groups. A friend told me, try something at least 5 times before you can say you're not going back. And I went into counseling, my husband went to counseling, we went together, my son went to counseling. We did all these different things. And then we eventually realized that we started speaking to people. We were very open about it and realized that, you know, we could do a lot of good. And so we established the Katrina Taggett Memorial Foundation, whose mission is just this, suicide prevention and mental health education. Because I believe that if I had talked to my daughter and even my son in as early as elementary school, then when this depression hit my daughter, she wouldn't have felt so shameful. She wouldn't have felt that she couldn't tell anybody, that it was a big secret, that she told us in odd ways, but we really couldn't hear it because it really wasn't clear. And I think if we had done more of that, then maybe she would still be here. So it was just kind of doing that kind of stuff. In the 3 years since she died, we've raised over $120,000. $60,000 of it has gone to her scholarship. It was fully endowed after 1 month of her death. And then the rest of the money has all been donated to suicide prevention, mental health education, so NAMI, AFSP, Grassroots, Active Minds. You know, we had no idea that 1,100 college students die by suicide on college campuses every year across America. We had no idea. I like to think that, you know, we prepared our children to go off to college. I always worried about whether she would study, how she would handle, you know, managing the party life with her studies, and how to keep her safe from strangers. I never ever thought that her way of coping, her drinking, her drug use, was not just the normal binge drinking. It was truly a sign of mental illness. She would drink until she would black out. She would then get up, wake up the next day, and she thought it was funny that she didn't know where she had been, who she had been with, and she would have bruises. She was very clumsy, bruises. And she thought it was funny.
But these were all things that you found out after her death.
Right, later.
But the thing that this foundation does, and I think that if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're hoping to communicate to other parents, other families, other young people is that suicide is something that needs to be talked about.
Yes.
That it's important to educate about that in the same ways that we do substance abuse and a lot of the other issues. So this really, you're obviously using this very tragic circumstance that has affected your family by trying to get the word out to others.
Right, that's exactly right. You know, much like we treat cancer, we treat diabetes. Can you imagine somebody walking around with having a heart attack every minute of the day? Well, no, because they get them to the hospital, they treat them, and they find a treatment that works. Well, much like mental health, mental illness, depression, there are treatments that work that, you know, maybe not every day will be so joyful, but you can live a full life without this incredible pain of living. I found after she died, she's a prolific writer, and, you know, I checked her room for like alcohol and drugs. I never checked her writing, ever, ever. And she wrote a lot. And can I share with you something that she wrote? She wrote this when she was 17 years old. I found it along with some other writings where she had actually taken a bunch of pills and had gone to sleep, hoping to not wake up, but she woke up the next morning and she wrote. She realized that she shouldn't have done this, that she didn't want to have her mom, me, find her like this. So when she was 17 also she wrote, "They say that without the pain there is no beauty. But how much pain, I say, must I endure before I am relieved, before I wake up? So detached, so deranged. I am not who you see walking down the street, run into in the hall, talk to in class, go to a party with. I am dying inside, withering away, and I'm too scared to share this with anyone but this computer screen." My little baby girl, at 17 years old, felt this incredible pain that, you know, she was seeing a psychiatrist, she was seeing a therapist, but felt she couldn't tell any adult. She told her friends, but they didn't truly understand because many of them are feeling this way. And then when the stress just got too much, it was that last week, we thought it was just a typical week where she was just having stress, teenage anxiety, she'd eventually outgrow it, she'll graduate from college, it'll all be good, and it wasn't. That week, a gun became available. Life was so awful that she research suicide, research methods, and then she just found on that Saturday the opportunity to pull out that gun and shoot herself. So it's just awful. It's just, we don't want any other families to go through this tragedy. It really does destroy a family. It has changed our lives, her friends' lives, forever. This is not something that you get over. It's something that you learn to live with.
Lisa, could you say a little bit about why it is that you take time to speak out again about such a personal tragedy that has affected your life?
You know, Edgar, my reality is so different from what I imagined it would have been. One of my biggest regrets is I did not know that no-sign suicide was a possibility. You know, society, school, churches, they really talk to us and tell parents to speak to their children about smoking and drugs and teenage pregnancy and sexual intercourse, but no one says we need to talk to our children about suicide. And my hope in all of this, of sharing so candidly what actually happened, is that I will save a life. Like Sarah said, there's nothing worse than burying your child, but to have them have died at their own hand really just adds to the pain and suffering. And so if it helps one parent, if one person talks to a child and keeps them from having to do such a thing, to commit suicide, and help them, then this will all be worth. My life will have not been in vain for how I'm having to live right now.
And that's obviously the theme that the two of you have, which is that taking something that was a very personal tragedy in both of your lives and trying to do something to keep it from happening to others. And certainly that's I mean, I can't tell you how commendable that is. And you're right. You know, we talk about substance abuse, we talk about lots of things, but we don't talk about depression enough. We don't talk about suicide enough. We're not really out about these things. And clearly what you're doing certainly has life-saving potential. Mm-hmm. I want to thank the two of you for coming in today. I know this is not easy, but I also know that for the two of you, that this is part of your personal recovery. So thank you again. And thank you, viewing audience, for tuning in to Mental Health Matters. And remember, if you or someone you know needs help with a behavioral health crisis, you can call Baltimore Crisis Response Incorporated 24 hours a day at 410-433-5175. And remember, your mental health matters to us.